This is Scenic Roots. I'm Ray Bassett. Thanks for joining us. Clyde Stubblefield, best known as the funky drummer for James Brown, was born and raised here in Chattanooga. This weekend, as we near the end of Black Music Month, a film screening and a live concert will honor his life and legacy. First, a Stubblefield tribute from Shane Morrow of Rise Chattanooga, aired here on WUTC in 2023.
The month of June typically has a number of celebrations attached to it, but one that should be the most recognizable is Black Music Month. Black Music Month, also known as African American Music Appreciation Month, serves as an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the historical influence African Americans have had on the global music industry and is intended to pay homage to the many artists, writers, songs, albums, past and present, that have shaped American pop culture and the inspiring musical moments that have brought all of us, white, black, and every other skin color, together. Chattanooga has had a significant impact on Black music throughout its history. The city has played a crucial role in the development and dissemination of various genres, including blues, jazz, gospel, and soul. Let's take a listen to some of the key examples of Chattanooga's impact on Black music.
I don't know how to read music. I don't know nothing about notes. All I know is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever goes after that. But I said, I don't question how I play. I just sit down and if I think of something, like I might think of, and that's just what I just done. That's the way I gotta play. I gotta hear that on the drums. Or I might play, see, I gotta hear that. But I know I can do it. If I can hum it, I can play it. So that's the way I think. 1, 2, 3.
Clyde Stubblefield was an American drummer who is best known for his work with James Brown, the influential and legendary funk musician. Born on April 18, 1943 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Stubblefield developed a unique drumming style characterized by his innovative and intricate use of syncopation, ghost notes, and offbeat rhythms. Stubblefield's drumming can be heard on many of James Brown's most famous recordings, including the classic funk songs Cold Sweat, Funky Drummer, and Sex Machine. His drum break on Funky Drummer, in particular, became one of the most sampled drum beats in the history of popular music and has been widely used in hip-hop and other genres. Despite his significant contributions to music, Stubblefield often did not receive proper recognition or compensation for his work. In later years, he continued to perform, record, and teach drumming. He collaborated with various artists and released his own albums, showcasing his talent and versatility as a musician. Clyde Stubblefield passed away on February 18, 2017 in Madison, Wisconsin, leaving behind a lasting legacy as one of the most influential drummers in the history of funk and popular music. His contributions to rhythm and his iconic drum breaks continue to be celebrated and recognized by musicians and fans worldwide.
Our thanks to Monica Arnold and Shane Morrow of Rise Chattanooga for this Amplify segment celebrating Black Music Month. This Saturday, starting at 11 a.m., Artsbuild will host an exclusive screening of Give the Drummer Some, a documentary on Clyde Stubblefield, who died in 2017, and a talkback with Trevor Banks, the film's director. Then, at 6 p.m. in Miller Park, local and regional musicians will perform at a live tribute concert to Stubblefield presented by Rise Chattanooga and the City of Chattanooga. I spoke with Shane Morrow, Executive Director of Rise, and Carmen Davis, Senior Director of the City of Chattanooga's Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy.
Trevor, who is the documentarian who will be coming here, his family was family friends with Clyde Stubblefield's family. And so he grew up around Mr. Stubblefield. And he just, as he got older, went into film and said, hey, I know the perfect person who needs to get the recognition that he has gotten in little small kind of doses here and there, but not really a full-on documentary just about him. There have been some documentaries about sampling and his impact on music and the music industry, but there hasn't been one that's just specifically about him and his specific legacy. And so that's what we are excited to premiere as we celebrate Clyde Stubblefield all day on the 28th. And Shane can share more about that, especially the concert that's also going to happen on that day.
Which is going to be amazing, Ray. When I think back a couple of years ago that we actually did a small celebration collaboratively with Carmen and some others over on ML King Boulevard. It was just a great way for us to be able to recognize Clyde and the contribution that he has done for the music scene. Folks, if they don't know, he's one of the most sampled drummers in music history, period. And he just received limited recognition during his lifetime. And that's really an all too common story for many artists, especially artists of color who shaped American music. So to be able to provide this celebration for him, for me, is just outstanding. And to be able to do it with Carmen, who was one of the navigators to bring him here to Chattanooga many years ago. So I had the opportunity, and others, to meet him in person, to feel the spirit of his humbleness, but also to feel this energy of a sleeping giant. Because literally, he is the architect for hip hop, for funk, just amazing. So we asked some of our local drummers here within town to be able to come out to celebrate him through the power of music. It starts at 6 o'clock. It's going to be at Miller Park.
It's free.
Absolutely free. There's no excuses for anyone to say they're not coming out here to celebrate.
As Shane mentioned, I was fortunate to be able to bring Clyde Stubblefield home before he passed to get his flowers. So he was able to get Key to the City and all those kind of wonderful things. But as an added bonus, unfortunately, it's not going to be able to happen this weekend due to some issues with getting the signage to us in enough time. But also this year, we will eventually unveil a new Tennessee Music Pathways marker honoring the legacy of Clyde Stubblefield. And that marker will be also in Miller Park. We were hoping to be able to do it on Friday, but getting parts and all that kind of stuff is a tricky situation right now. And so we just were a little fearful it wasn't going to arrive in enough time and be able to be installed in enough time to do a proper ceremony and celebration on Friday. So we are postponing that part, but we're still doing the screening. And as Shane's going to go into a little bit more detail about who's going to be performing at the concert later that night at 6 p.m. And the screening is at 11 o'clock at Artsfield. And it's also free, but it requires registration.
And then Shane Morrow, tell us about some of the drummers, the local drummers who are coming out for this concert on Saturday night at 6 p.m. in Miller Park.
We actually hooked up with Jared White. Jared White, for folks that know him, he is just a beast, a musical beast. How about that? When it comes to not just the drums, but also bass. That was pretty interesting to me. But long story short, he has become an artist in residence for Rise. And we asked him to curate this particular concert through the network that he had on a local and also regional level. So he was able to pull in the following folks. We got Daryl Kelly that played for the Mailman, who's been out here for many years. We got DJ Gates, Timothy Allen Turner Jr., Yaddy Westfield. Anyone that has seen Yaddy perform knows that he performs multiple instruments at once. Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Twain Dawson, who has been known here within inside the realm of drumming. And of course, we're going to have Jared. We got a couple of featured vocalists, I should say, that's going to be performing. And one of them will be Zoe Boyd. Just a couple of other folks. I'm going to keep it as a surprise. But the main thing is that folks will come out, really get a sense of community, and for us to collectively celebrate a musical icon that was born and raised right here in Chattanooga.
He was James Brown's drummer, and he was known as the funky drummer, but also there's a line in a song where James Brown says, "You're the drummer song," which is where that quote for the movie comes from, right? And so, he's been known as the funky drummer, and his drum patterns have been the most sampled drum patterns in music history, period. And it goes across multiple genres, not just R&B and hip hop. And hip hop is probably the biggest influence, but also gospel and rock and pop. And literally, you can find his drum patterns being sampled sampled across every genre there is just about. He was one of Rolling Stone's top drummers when they did their whole big drummer list, if you believe in those lists like that. He was not classically trained. So he is someone who, when he talked about how he learned how to play the drums, it was coming home from seeing Howard's marching band play, and he would go and try and mimic it as he's walking home down the street. Or he would go to the Armed Forces Day parade and see the bands play, and he would mimic those sounds that he would hear from the train tracks and the mills and all the things. He would mimic those sounds with sticks that he would pick up off the ground and all those types of things. So it was fascinating when we were able to bring him, for him to talk about how these very streets, these Chattanooga streets, shaped this very massive and beautiful career and legacy that he's left for everyone to enjoy.
For more, visit Rise Chattanooga and the City of Chattanooga's Parks and Outdoors, both on Facebook. It happened in July, 100 years ago, in Dayton, the Scopes trial. John Scopes, a high school teacher, went on trial in the Ray County Courthouse, accused of violating a Tennessee law that barred the teaching of evolution in public schools. This July, Dayton will mark the trial's centennial with its annual Scopes Festival, featuring Destiny in Dayton, a play staged in the courthouse where the actual trial was held. Rick Dye is president of the Ray Heritage Preservation Foundation. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here again. Always a pleasure.
Tell us about what's in store for Scopes 100.
We kick off on July 11th with the actual Scopes trial events. Our first performance will be July 11th at 7 p.m. But also going on that first weekend out on the courthouse lawn, activities will be oriented towards family and children. So we expect that Friday and Saturday to have a lot of kids out there playing, a lot of enjoyment activities. And then, of course, our performances of Destiny in Dayton the first weekend. And then the second weekend, Friday, July 18th. And then July 19th, this will be our second year. We're very excited because it was a great success last year. Our season finale will end with the Dinner with the Cast event.
Talk more about how Destiny in Dayton tells the story of the Scopes trial. It's different from what most people might imagine.
Most of the people that still come to the play say, I've seen the movie. Only there's not a movie, because the difference between that movie, Inherit the Wind, and our play is derived directly from the trial transcript. So 90% of the dialogue that you will hear is from the trial transcript. And now we have created the storyteller as the famous Tennessee reporter, Nellie Kenyon, the only female to have a valid press pass for the trial. She does the storytelling and narration, and that is derived from her actual publications in the Chattanooga News. So you're seeing a very fact-based, as I say to people, you're sitting in the actual chairs, in the actual room, and you're going to hear the actual words of Brian and Darrow. So we think that's what sets it apart. It is a historical dramatization of the true events as they occurred in 1925.
The one difference I can think of is now there's air conditioning in that courthouse.
Yes. In fact, I will tell you, when Destiny started in 1988, the playwright, Frank Chafin, who wrote Destiny in Dayton, decided that we should be authentic. So the very first performance of Destiny in Dayton, they turned the air conditioning off. We learned very quickly that the air conditioning was critical to the mood of the audience.
And then let's go back and talk about some of the other things that are happening in between these performances for Destiny in Dayton. Talk about Buttram Cemetery.
This year, in cooperation with the Ray County Historical Society, they will be offering guided tours. They will actually have a shuttle bus available that if people want to go in groups to drive them up to Buttram Cemetery, which is, I believe, the oldest cemetery in Dayton. Buried there are many of the instigators, if you will, of the trial, the McKenzie family, the Robinson family, and so forth. We're excited to have that as a featured event this year and hope people will take advantage of it.
And the tours of Buttram Cemetery, they're on Friday, July 11th and Saturday, July 12th. Looking ahead to the following week, Wednesday, July 16th and Thursday, July 17th, there is a symposium, Evolving Conflict Scopes at 100, featuring a number of scholars on all things Scopes trial.
Absolutely. We kick off with Dr. Nick Spencer with his Science, Religion, and How We Got Here, followed by attorney out of Chattanooga, Jerry Summers, talks about the trial itself and the people that were involved in the trial. The first afternoon will feature Dr. Ed Larson, who wrote probably the best book written about the trial, Summer for the Gods, and he won the 1997 Pulitzer Prize in History for that book. He's always an exciting speaker. And then on Thursday, Dr. Neil Doran will talk about the science at the Scopes trial and since, what we've learned and so forth. And then Dr. John Hawks will present his findings on human origin and what paleontology tells us. Then Dr. Joel Duff will speak on Christians and evolution after the trial. And then a very interesting discussion between Dr. Todd Wood and Mr. Paul Garner as they'll discuss the history of creationism and the future of creation-evolution debate. This is kind of special to look at kind of all aspects. Something that we hope our keeping the Scopes trial alive does is keep the discussion going. So we're excited. This is a special year. So we've added these symposiums, and we will have in between on that Wednesday night a symposium dinner. So if you're interested in getting to know some of the speakers on a more personal level, that symposium dinner is also available on Wednesday evening.
And then on Friday, July 18th, Saturday, July 19th, there are more tours of Buttram Cemetery. There's also antique autos on display.
We will have automobiles both weekends, but the second weekend is really special because we're going to have a rare selection of 1925 automobiles from the Coker Tire Museum, from Mr. Coker's personal collection. I've seen a couple of the pictures. I'm pretty pumped about that. So for the real car nuts that have a passion, again, even the first weekend, we're supposed to be having a group that's called the Horseless Carriage Group. These automobiles, I think, all predate like 1912, 1913. We're also supposed to have a collection of vintage fire trucks. We have a lot of things going on both weekends. The second weekend will also feature writers from the Tennessee Authors Guild and some other various local authors that will have their books available for sale the second Saturday. We're excited about that. It's sort of a literary twist we added about 3 years ago, and it's growing a little bit each year. I think people will find that interesting, and hopefully we'll pick up a few of the books.
And on Saturday, July 19th, a commemorative tree dedication with members of Scopes trial families planning to attend.
We have several descendants of the Bryan family in particular that will be in attendance, hopefully telling a few stories. We're hoping that we might have some of the Robinson family. They have some interesting stories to tell about the trial and their father and grandfather's involvement in it. F.E. Robinson. We hope that's kind of a special moment for people that are really interested and tied into it. You'll always get the one that says, I just learned when we were coming to this that my wife's great uncle was one of the jurors. There's always that interesting connection that you find that people do come that somehow have a distant tie to it. We actually have 2 cast members who are descendants of Walter White. One of the descendants is playing Walter White. We think that's a pretty interesting twist.
Talk more about how people in Dayton, whether they're involved with all these events or otherwise, are thinking about this event now or talking about this event now. It is, of course, the centennial. The fault lines that emerged in that trial with all the national and international attention a century ago, they're still very much with us, perhaps in different ways.
Well, the people of Dayton have grown to embrace the trial, particularly over the last 10 or so years. It's been an interesting change because I'm sure I've shared with you over the years. When I started in 93, it was not warmly received. It was like, oh, y'all are doing that trial thing again. Because historically, you had the actual event in 25. Publicity was not favorable, but the community survived and they founded Bryan College and they went on. But the big backlash came in 1960 when Inherit the Wind debuted in Dayton. And all the citizens heard was Hollywood's going to make a movie about the trial. United Artists came calling. They embraced the idea, went and found John Scopes, brought him to town, had a parade, then went and saw the movie and were humiliated. The movie, more than the trial, scarred the memory of the community. And then as we kept telling the story as it actually occurred and we brought positive review, the community began to embrace it. Then a gentleman named Alan Garrison opened a restaurant 10 years ago called Monkeytown Brewery, and it changed the landscape. Suddenly we have Monkeytown inflatables. We have Monkeytown lawn care service. People are taking pride in the courthouse and the preservation. And we've just spent a great deal of time and money restoring the courtroom to just as it looked in 1925. We took out all the carpet, redid the hardwood floors. The community is embracing it in a very positive way, and you have more and more people coming forward with, as I said, well, I just learned that my great uncle was one of the jurors, or I am some distant relative of John Ralston, the judge. So yes, there has been a big shift in attitude and support for the actual event.
And for people who want to learn more about all of the Scopes Trial Centennial events taking place in Dayton in July, where can they go online?
We have a special website for this year, scopes100.com. It's pretty extensive, pretty detailed, where you can pick and choose what things you would be interested in, links to purchase tickets, to the required purchases, and so forth.
All right, Rick, thanks so much.
Thank you, Rick.
This weekend, Be the Change Youth Initiative here in Chattanooga brings its Concert for a Cause series to the St. Elmo neighborhood. Saturday's concert, featuring local female artists, begins at 7 p.m. at the Woodshop. Proceeds support the AIM Center and its mission for mental health recovery in Chattanooga. Sydney Garrett is founder and president of Be the Change and one of the musicians in the concert lineup. Savannah Busby is with the AIM Center. Sydney, Savannah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Tell us more about this concert.
We have an upcoming benefit show at the Woodshop Saturday. It's going to be 2 singer-songwriter rounds with a bunch of female artists in the area, and the benefit show is going to be for the AIM Center.
You will be among the artists. Tell us about the others.
Yeah, so we have Emerald Butler, we have Rosie and Amelia from Call Me Spinster, Jennifer Daniels, Kat Campbell, and Riley, who used to be a member of HAM, the band. And we've worked with several of them in the past. I think Emerald Butler is the only person that we haven't worked with personally before. So the fact that we get to work with other like-minded artists who are just as passionate about creating, cultivating a community here around music, around storytelling, but also are willing to share some of their own mental health stories and how it's impacted them in their songwriting. It's going to be a great night of advocacy and also community work for as well.
Let's talk more about that work, Savannah.
The AIM Center is a mental health nonprofit in Chattanooga that serves adults here living with serious mental illness. And really what that serious means is your mental illness is impacting your day-to-day life. So we do that through the Clubhouse model of psychosocial rehabilitation, which is just a fancy way of saying that we offer community-based recovery. So we create a stigma-free environment where adults can just focus on their mental health recovery and have the support system to do so.
How would you describe the needs of the AIM Center and those it serves at this point in time?
Any kind of support that we can get for mental health is really, really critical. And what we find a lot in our work is that there's a huge gap between being okay with your mental health and then needing like institutionalized care. There's a service gap right there in the middle. And a lot of people need that kind of support. So just a little bit of help either with employment or housing or even just like goal setting or just having a community of people is so important. And there's never enough support in the community. So really anything that we can get really truly helps and makes a difference for lots and lots of people.
Mental health afflicts every demographic, but just thinking about the lineup for this show, Sydney, talk more about the struggles in mental health and articulating those struggles and finding help to navigate those struggles for women.
We can look even just at what's happening in our world today. I think there's been a lot of oppression and a lot of stigma, especially when it comes to women's rights. And so much of our culture is just constantly putting this idea of like what a woman should be, what we should be able to do with our bodies. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is not just creating a local change on that larger level, but it's about creating a change on the community base, like local level. And how do we do that? By meeting like-minded people, by having that conversation with other women, by sharing our stories and creating that kind of safe environment to say that it could be like a mental illness that we're struggling with, or it could just be having like a bad day. I think there's a spectrum of the mental health conversation. There could be just like for me, I mean, there are some days when it's really difficult to get out of bed because I have a lack of hope or I have a lot of self-doubt. And so I might not be struggling with a lot of the heavier mental illnesses or mental health struggles, but I could be struggling on just that basic level. So I think the big thing is kind of having an open conversation as far as what does that mean for us? What does that mean for other people? How can we be there to support others in whatever their struggle is? And it is just this massive spectrum that we're all welcoming people to like be able to share in that.
Even when you look at like postpartum health too, like a lot of people genuinely just feel isolated. So when you take the instance of maybe like postpartum mental illness, that's a very isolating time. You're home, you're with your baby, and sometimes just being able to have an open dialogue and know that you're not alone. We see all the time that a lot of people find a lot of hope and just in knowing that there are other people that are struggling the same way that they are. So sometimes that can just be all you need. Sometimes you just need a community of people that understand you, they hear you, and they're walking the same walk with you. You know, that changes lives, truly.
Be the Change teaming up with Be Caffeinated for this concert for a cause at the Woodshop in St. Elmo on Saturday to support the AIM Center. For people who want more information about the concert, where can they go online?
You can go to the Woodshop's website and you'll find a link to the tickets for the show.
And for people who want to learn more about the AIM Center, where can they go online?
aimcenterinc.org. We're also very active on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And honestly, we are happy to welcome you into the clubhouse as well. So if you ever want to come take a tour, see what we're all about, and really see the clubhouse model in action, you can walk right in and we'd be happy to show you around.
All right. Sydney, Savannah, thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Next Friday is the 4th of July. This Friday, in downtown Dalton, starting at 6:30 p.m., Pops in Burr Park celebrates Independence Day as part of Off the Rails, the free summer concert series. Among the performers, the Creative Arts Guild Chamber Orchestra, guest vocalists, dancers from Ballet Dalton, and a community kids choir, with a fireworks finale to end the concert. Smitty Barnett is the orchestra's conductor.
Some of the patriotic things that we are doing, of course, we'll be doing standards like God Bless America, America the Beautiful. We will be doing Stars and Stripes Forever. Of course, we'll be playing the national anthem, God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. There is a cornucopia of things, but we also have other selections that will be eidetic to the American experience and songs that they know, and music that can draw them closer to where we live, to just enjoy where we live.
Paula Pasqua is the concertmaster and principal violinist for the orchestra.
It provides a wide variety of challenges and fun passages to play, everything from the Radetzky March all the way to Schindler's List, which is probably my personal favorite just because of my experiences in having viewed the movie and the very powerful missing hat ceremony that we will be performing while that is being played. Both the passion and the musicianship that are required for that, I think, are something that will help us go beyond more than just celebrating what a fun event this is and help us remember why we have the freedoms that we do.
We also are doing some pieces that are popular during this time. We're doing one piece from the musical Wicked entitled For Good. We have two wonderful vocalists singing that piece for us, Scarlett Mumford and Eiley Barnes. They are incredible singers, but they are just incredible people. We are also doing a piece, as Paula already alluded to, I'm so excited about hearing her play this in Schindler's List, but that's part of the program that we do called the Missing Hat Ceremony, which is to remind people of the men and women who have served in our nation's military who did not come back. If you're familiar with that song and the beautiful rendition that was done by John Williams of that, it's very moving. We're also doing some standard favorites like from George Gershwin, where they'll be featuring Cynthia Wilson singing that piece entitled Embraceable You. We'll be also featuring Eddie Davenport on a piece by Michael Bublé called Home, which is also going to be utilizing David Crawford on guitar. Again, that's leaning toward our military.
Since we're talking about crowd favorites and whatnot like that, we've got a piece from Moana, How Far I'll Go. I'm so excited about this one because I feel like sometimes the kids miss out on a great opportunity to celebrate with us. I just think those lyrics, How Far I'll Go, that just shows not only how these soldiers have fought for us in the past and why we're celebrating for the freedom, but just inspiring them to be more patriotic as well. I think that'll be a real big crowd booster, not just for the kids. A lot of the adults enjoy that as well, but I'm looking forward to that one as well.
More at creativeartsguild.org. I'm Ray Bassett. Join us again next time for Scenic Roots.